Welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to take a look at the top 5 index cards. Thanks to Games Workshop for sending them through to me. So in no particular order, starting off with the Swarm Lord. He moves 10, he's toughness 10 with a 2-up save and 10 wounds. With a 4-up invulnerable save, that is relatively chonky, but the number of wounds he has gone down from the previous edition. Meanwhile, his toughness has gone up. So whether he's going to be any less points or around the same number of points, we shall find out. He is a leader. He can lead a unit of Tyrant Guard and Tyrant Guard only, and he has a little psychic power torrent. The torrent means it automatically hits something at 18-inch range. And it'll hit d6 plus 3 times at strength 5 minus 1, 2 damage. Not too shabby for a psychic power, seen as psychic powers have been a little bit nerfed in this edition. But his Bone Sabers, twin linked, melee attacks, 8 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 9, minus 2, 3 damage. And twin linked means he's re-rolling all hits. Re-rolling all wounds with those 8 attacks. Now, where he really stands out is Hive Commander. At the start of your command phase, if this model is on the battlefield, you gain a CP. So in most games of 40k, 10th edition, you're going to have 10 CP. You're going to gain a CP in every command phase, your command phase, your opponent's command phase. So anything to give you extra CP is a good thing. Free CP, I'll take it. And Malign Presence, once per battle after opponent uses a stratagem. If this model is your warlord and is on the battlefield, it can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the battle, increase that stratagem's cost to your opponent by 1. So you can do it in as soon as your opponent pops a stratagem and make them double the cost of that stratagem. And it doesn't matter whether Swarmi's alive at the end of the battle or not. Once you've done it, that stratagem will cost double until the end. And Swarmi's also got a 9-inch synapse. So he's a big scary monster that increases your synapse range and farms you CP. I'll take that. Talking about big scary monsters, let's take a look at the Harrow specs. The Harrow specs no longer has 15 wounds and a 2-up save. It only has 14 wounds and a 3-up save. Again, I hope the points will reflect that reduction there. However, the toughness has gone all the way up from 8 to 11, which is nice. But the scariest thing about the Harrow specs is it's got 18 attacks. The Ravenous Maw does 14 attacks. Hitting on 3, strength 7, minus 1, 2 damage. An absolute marine killer there. And the Shoveling Claws are extra attacks. So every time it fights, you always get the extra attacks as well. And they're 4 attacks, hitting on 3s at strength 14, minus 2, d6 plus 1 attack. So d6 plus 1 damage. So that's 18 attacks. Love it. It's going to kill infantry, it's going to kill tanks, add that to a couple of screamer killers, charging up the table with an objective control of 4, you're gonna profit. It's got Grisly Spectacle as an extra rule, which means each time this model is selected to fight after resolving its attacks, if it kills an entire unit, other enemy units within 6 inches of this model must take a battle shock test. Not sure if that one's going to come up very much, but it's a nice little sting in the tail. Next, we're going to take a look at the Barb Gaunt, which come in units of 5 to 10. They're not battle line, so the most of these that you're going to see running around is 15 to 30. If you take 3 units of 5, 15, or 3 units of 10 for 30. But I'd certainly recommend finding space for 3 units of 5, because disruption bombardment in your shooting phase after this unit is shot, if an enemy infantry unit was hit by one or more of these attacks, so you don't even have to wound, you don't even have to get through the armor save, as long as you hit an infantry unit, then until the end of your opponent's next turn, that enemy unit is disrupted, and while the unit is disrupted, subtract 2 from its move, and 2 from its advance, and 2 for its charge rolls made for it. Now that is quite pokey. Anything that you can do that can affect your opponent's move phase, particularly in this edition where terrain doesn't slow you down, there's no minus 2 going through cover anymore, minus 2 jumping over barricades anymore. Everything just moves the distance that they want to move. So in your shooting phase, being able to slow down the enemy by 2 inches in the movement, charge and advanced phases is quite powerful. And 3 units of 5 Barb Gaunts shooting out there. You'll be able to do this 3 times. You'll be able to select an infantry unit over there, shoot at it. As long as you hit, you're good. Shoot at it, another unit. Shoot at it, another unit. Technically, you could end up slowing down 3 different infantry units in your opponent's army, and you're gonna hit. It's only 24-inch range, but it is D6 attacks every time. So 5 of these guys have 5 times D6 shots, hitting on 4s, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. You might tickle off a couple of wounds, unless of course you're firing against Tau or Skitari or Eldar or Drukhari, anything like it. Some stuff with low toughness isn't going to like this gun. Some of the more Xenos type armies, Marines and Necrons and such, you're maybe not going to hurt as much, but you're just bringing them along to hit stuff with. I'm definitely thinking of ways that I could incorporate 3 units of 5 in my army. And so what if your opponent shoots at them? If you've got these niggling little units of Barb Gaunts that are trying to slow down the enemy, you almost want them to be a pain in the bum so that your enemy is shooting and targeting little Barb Gaunts and not targeting any of the really big stuff that's charging towards them, or the synaptic stuff which is buffing the rest of your army. If these are, they're going to be a distraction, they're going to be something that your opponent wants to remove, they're going to be annoying, and 10 out of 10 I recommend. Next up we have the Psychophage, toughness 9 with a 3-up save, 10 wounds. It doesn't have a 4-up invulnerable save like some of the big monsters does, but it does have a 5-up feel no pain, and while a friendly Tyranids unit is within 6 inches of this model, models in that unit have a feel no pain 6-up. Remember, Synapse is a 6-inch aura as well. So basically, if you're in Synapse range of a Psychophage, your army gets a 6-up feel no pain. It's got a 5-up feel no pain. And now Catalyst is gone. This is your replacement for Catalyst. Catalyst is gone because the Psychic phase is gone. There is a strat that kind of works like Catalyst, but you have to pay for it in the shooting phase, and then you have to pay for it again in the fight phase. You could only put that on 1 unit because it's a stratagem. You can only use 1 stratagem per phase. So Catalyst was a big crutch for Tyranid players in previous editions, in all previous editions. Instead, we now have the Psychophage. This is the thing that'll help buff your armies or keep your little bugs alive. So 5-up feel no pain, 6-up feel no pain for everything when in Synapse. It's got Feeding Frenzy. Each time this model makes a melee attack that targets a unit that's below starting strength, add 1 to hit. And if it's below half strength, add 1 to wound. Not sure that you're going to be sending this in very much. It has got D6 plus 1 attack with a weapon skill of 3, strength 6, -1, 2 damage. It is anti-Psyker, so it will wound Psyker units on 2s, and it has got devastating wounds, so 6s to wound. 6 on a 6 roll to wound, it counts as mortal wounds instead. Not sure you're going to be sending this in very much. It's got some close combat ability basically to look after itself if it gets close to enemy stuff, but mainly you're going to be using Psychophages to buff, to help protect other stuff in your army. The one thing it's missing, it hasn't got Synapse itself. It doesn't give out Synapse, which is a shame. The Neurotyrant is next on my list. This thing does have a 4-up invulnerable save and 9 wounds, toughness 8. With a base 4-up save and a 4-up invulnerable save, it's nice and clean, but toughness 8, 9 wounds, it's going to be hanging around for a while. And this thing does have Synapse and gives out Synapse and Shadow in the Warp. And again, you're not bringing it for its ranged attacks or melee attacks. However, it does have a Psychic Scream ranged attack, which is Assault, which has 2d6 attacks at 18-inch range, strength 5, -1, 2 damage, which is pretty nice as a torrent, as it's automatically hitting and ignoring cover. And it's got 6 attacks with its Neurotyrant claws and lashes. But again, you're not really using it for those sorts of things. Instead, you're using it for its abilities on the right. Node Lash, Psychic. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if the target is battle shocked. Add 1 to the wound roll as well. It can lead units of Neurogaunts and Tyrant Guard, so if you're going to bring it along as a leader unit, you're probably going to bring it along with some Tyrant Guard for that +1 to hit, but the main reason why you're bringing this is for Psychic Terror. If one or more Neurotyrants from your army are on the battlefield, when you unleash the Shadow in the Warp, subtract 1 from the Battle Shock test for each enemy unit on the battlefield. So, for those that don't know, Shadow in the Warp has completely changed. What it is once per battle you can ask your opponent to take Battle Shock tests for all the units that they have in your army. You can do it once per battle, anytime. You're probably doing it after the command phase, after they've taken a bunch of Battle Shock tests for their army, and looking at certain units here or there that you really want to make sure that they fail the Battle Shock test, so you're now in control of that objective. You can make them do it again, or you can make them do it once per battle with Shadow in the Warp. And the Neurotyrant means subtract 1 from the Battle Shock test, which is pretty pokey, increasing the ability of Shadow in the Warp, your once per battle bomb. I'll buy that for $1. It also has synaptic relays. In your command phase, you can select up to 2 friendly Tyranid units within 12 inches of this model, and until the start of your next command phase, the selected units are always considered to be within synapse range of your army. This is very, very useful because synapse is only 6 inches, and if you're in synapse range, you roll 3d6 for battle shock instead of the 2d6 for battle shock, and it's only 6 inches long. And as a Tyranid player, I can tell you there are many times when units go charging off across the battlefield and suddenly they're not in synapse range anymore. Well, what you can do in your command phase is you can point at a Screamer Killer unit, for example, or you could point at a unit of Gene Stealers or Raveners or Higher Respexes or whatever is going to go charging off. And if they're within 12, they're in the synapse. And until the start of your next command phase, they're always considered to be within synapse. So even if they charge further than 12 inches away, or even if the Neurotyrant dies, they will be in synapse until the start of your next command phase. Keeping that synaptic net as wide as possible is very useful. So it's very interesting that 2 of the new Tyranid units, this one, the Neurotyrant, and the Psychophage, are buffing units, but anything that helps buff the Swarm is a good thing. Anyway, those are my top 5 top trumps, top 5 top picks from the Tyranid Index deck. I intend to do a lot more of these things as the embargo dates and the NDAs swing round, so stay tuned and happy wargaming.